What's up, YouTube? It's your boy back with another video. Guys, in today's episode, we want to look at a very serious topic, man. This topic has got people talking because a lot of people feel like we, the young generation in Africa, are losing our African values, losing our African ways, losing our Africanness. Do you think American and Western culture have destroyed the true essence of what African culture was meant to be? Do you think the youth of today have been westernized and are moving away from their traditional values of being truly African? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we family, right? So, before we get into the video, you know we always have some fun, right? Let's go have some fun. Holla! Rick. People, music, television, internet, social media, you name it. All these things have played a major part in influencing African culture or Africa's way of thinking or shaping the young generations of young Africans. For example, hip hop music has permeated the African landscape from Egypt to Cape Town, from Lagos to Nairobi. Hip hop has been a dominant factor in most of these countries, if not all of these countries, right? Almost every television channel has an American influence in Africa. And in Africa, most of the visuals that come out of America are that of a perfect, rich world that makes most of us aspire to. But is it real? Now, the question that comes to mind is, are we being brainwashed? Are our young generations lapping it up? Are they trying their best to emulate what they're seeing on the television sets, on social media, on the internet? Does Western culture have the power to erode and eventually eradicate African culture, norms, and traditions? In rural Africa, I think traditions are still strong, right? Very much strong, very much so. Very, I think because they have limited access to the internet, to television, and to social media. But in the urban areas, I think tradition and culture has been devastatingly damaging to the youth and the way they see their own cultures and traditions. For example, fashion, clothing brands, name brands, music, the way they talk now. It's surprising that influential people like Nasty C, for example, right, who refuses to rap in Vernac, right? Or at one point, he refused to rap in Vernac, because he was catering obviously to an American audience, right? A lot of kids look up to Nasty C, right? They see Nasty C as a hero. They see themselves in Nasty C, right? So when Nasty C permeates this American culture, right, then you get to see the damaging effects it has on the youth, because now even the way they speak basic English, it now sounds so American. It's almost like you cannot differentiate an African kid, no matter where he's from, as long as he's heavily influenced by hip hop, right? An American kid from an African kid, because they're almost basically sounding alike now. The sad reality is this, man. The American kids don't seem to want to emulate African kids at all. They don't want to be like us. They don't see any value, or they don't see any what word can I use? They don't see any elevation in being African, right? They probably see it as a downgrade, you know. Whereas we on the continent, our kids, they see being American as an upgrade. You know what I mean? So that in itself just tells you about the psyche of our kids and the devastating impact hip hop and American and Western culture is having on African kids. If you get, for example, now, if you get kids who can't even speak their mother tongue properly, fluently, efficiently, or sufficient enough to converse, to have a decent conversation without butchering it and having to insert English words where their parents and grandparents do not even use a single English word, let alone an American accent. Man, come on. That would be like a dream come true, right? So, at the end of the day, culture, tradition, language, fashion, social media, internet, television, radio, all these mediums and all these different um, sources of influence have a bearing on the young African mind. And we need to look into that because at some point, you have to put Africa first. And in doing so, I'm talking about culturally, morally, economically, militarily, you name it. It's got to be Africa first. But if we're still going to have this notion that no, we can always just switch and do other things like how other people do it, we don't really need to have Africa as a dominant thing. And dude, we are going to lose ourselves in this thing called life. And what are we if we lose our traditions and cultures and traditional norms? You see, most of us don't value what we were taught by our ancestors or what we were taught by our parents. You see, most of us think that those parents and those customs and those norms are outdated. Now, to some extent, that may be true, but in all reality, there is nothing outdated. You can always, always, always fuse your tradition, your culture with modern day stuff. I mean, you could always do that, but you don't have to lose yourself entirely to a whole new culture. That is just now outrightly stupid. Because if you lose the essence of who you truly are, you will never blend into another place because they will never accept you as one of them, even though you may look like, sound like, walk like, talk like, but you are not them or one of them. That is the way they look at it. Always be authentic in whatever you do. Guys, next we get into the pros of the American and Western influence and culture. But you know how we do, right? We go and we're going to have some fun. Holla. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we're family, right? So we have to grow this channel. Holla. People, the pros of hip hop American culture on African kids, right? It obviously brings us closer to each other, right? As a global village, like I always say, you know what I mean? no, there's no harm in learning and immersing yourself in other cultures and traditions. I mean, the more you learn, the more educated you are. The school is not the only form of learning that you could actually come into play. You know what I mean? So you could always, you can always learn from other people. You can learn from the streets. You don't always have to be in a school setting. You know what I mean? So don't always let people tell you that school and university is the only place where you can learn, because learning can be done anywhere, on the streets, anywhere. Always remember that. So good thing about American influence on African youth is that it opens their minds. They get to see a different world. They get to experience different things. They get to experience different music, different clothing style types, dress types. You know, it's a whole lot of different things you learn by immersing yourself in other people's cultures. And it's a beautiful thing. Don't get me wrong. As long as the other people also immerse themselves in African culture, learn African norms, African things, and African language. You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be the Africans learning the European or Western or American languages. Why can't they also immerse themselves in the African languages, and then we all grow together as one? Like we always say, it's a global village, right? So let's all learn each other's languages. All learn each other's cultures, each other's traditions and cultural norms, and we grow as a global village. I mean, at the end of the day, I really see the world as becoming. I really see the world becoming one. Really, I really do. I really do. And I first see Africa starting with that. You know, even though many forces are against it, but yeah, you know, Africa is really going to become one. I promise you that. I can already foresee that happening. Yeah, yeah. Next, we get into the cons. You know how we do. Hala, people, Western civilization, Western cultures are destroying African cultures, right? Reason I'm saying this is because in the past, right, you would see that there was no, like I'm saying, like I said in my previous videos, Western influence on African culture has brought new sins that Africans never knew about. You know, the introduction of clubs, introduction of porn, introduction of swearing in the music, the introduction of cocaine, synthetic drugs, drugs that are manufactured in labs. I mean, what was the worst poison that Africans knew about? Possibly it could have been. When I say poison, I'm meaning like, you know, like marijuana, weed, maybe possibly tobacco, you know, and that was about it. And then there are the traditional beers, and that's basically it. But the traditional beers are made from wholesome stuff, you know. It doesn't compare to what whiskey is made of. It doesn't compare to what cocaine is made of. So these are, I just think Western culture is a destructive influence on African culture, man. I don't see. I mean, there's a lot of positives to it, you know. If you look into Westernized African culture, but on the whole, nah, bro. No, 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 no. Africa was doing way better without the influence of Western or American culture. I think Africans were thriving. Africans were not surviving. Now Africans are surviving because of the influence of Western and American culture. In the past, Africa, when before any influence was imposed on Africa, Africans were kings and queens. They had kingdoms, they had civilizations, they had their own way of life, and there was just no struggle and suffering like there is today, right? I keep saying this, guys. So, in my view, my honest, humble opinion, the advent of democracy, the imposing of foreign Western and American culture and African culture has totally destroyed the fabric of what it means to be an African in the urban centers. You still get a semblance of what it means to be an African when you go to rural places. But in the urban centers, Most Africans want to be Europeans. Most Africans aspire to be like Americans. And for me, I just think that is destroying a whole generation, a whole culture, a whole civilization. And it all starts with the basics. If you can't even speak your mother tongue fluently, that's the start of the end. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You know we're family, right? So we have to grow the channel. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Holla!